The Turtle Man comes to a deal with Charles U. Schumer about what they're going to do about the debt. I have no idea what this is. I haven't even read into it. Just read the headlines that he's found it. So we will figure out what's going on with that, and we'll figure it out together. In other news, Trump may have ordered some of his aides to not comply with the subpoena for the January 6th riot. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. University of Colorado Health has decided to deny a woman in stage 5 renal failure a kidney transplant because she didn't get the holy jab. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. And it turns out with this Twitch leak, we have seen the finances of some of your favorite creators. And Hassan Piker may make a lot more than somebody who advocates for tax the rich may be making. It's going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and boy, oh boy, what a week. What a day, I should say, coming off of here. We go from the roller coaster one of the fact that the debt is gonna, it's gonna go away, and we're all gonna lose everything because the U.S. is gonna default on stuff too. At the 11th hour, oh hey, we have a deal now, and it's not the budget reconciliation. I thought it was gonna be that, but it's not the budget reconciliation, and I don't even fucking know anymore. A lot of these people just need to go away, including the Turtle Man. Which, I have no love for the Turtle Man to begin with, because you guys know that. I make fun of him, and I say bad things about him, just as much as I say about everybody else. So, I mean, that's nothing new or anything else like that, but, they're gonna spend it and spend it and spend it. No, nobody's gonna rein Washington in, and we need to start thinking about what it is that we can do about that. But, you know, who I would like to spend, I would like my fans to spend maybe a little bit of money, maybe $1, maybe $5, maybe a little bit of something here and there to come and help fund our new website coming up here. And of course, I'm talking about TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Something cool is still coming, 46 days away. So go and check that out. It's going to be a great time. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're still looking at getting to the level that we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to $2,000 to go pay the web developer. And, you know, my mantra of news that's coming from a person who's not rich, from a person who's not wearing a suit that costs more than your house, that stays true. If I was loaded, I'd be able to just come back out here and, you know, throw that money around there and make it happen. Oh, the Instagram video is already shut down. God damn it. Anyway, yeah, go check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com, and I've already put the link in the chat, but if you guys do want to help out, the GoFundMe is up there. Even $1 will help out if you can. So if you can toss $1 in there, we're already at $500 on our goal over, with, I think it's just over 2 weeks. And not even that, because the GoFundMe hasn't existed for that long, because I did that not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. So in just a little bit over a week, we've already got to $500. So if you guys want to come back and help out, $1, $5, $10 helps. You don't have to be as generous as our sugar daddy. Well, I'm not going to say who that is because he chose to remain anonymous, but the first donation was $300. You don't have to be that generous. I understand. You know, you guys all have your little bills too. But yeah, definitely if you guys want to throw a little bit at that, that'd be super helpful. So go and check that out. And let's get into the finance for the day. Let's actually get the live chat up here. Thank you, Arbold, for that one. From the Dow, starting off the Dow. And I mean, you could see where they all made the big deal here. Where Charles U. Schumer and the Turtle Man decided they were going to come together. Because the day stayed low throughout the day. Just kind of hanging out there. Down, 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 down. And then they struck a deal. And all of a sudden it was whoop, and we're ready. We're ready to go and trade again because now we can borrow limitless money in the government. So that's what's happening there. Looking into the Bitcoin, let's get a refresh on this because I haven't refreshed this since last night. Well, still, it's $54,075 US dollars even per Bitcoin, which means that it went up $3,000 from yesterday. $3,000 in a day. So that's well, it lost $1,000 overnight too. I can't go and deny that reality, but $3,000 over the course of a day. There are a lot of people out there that don't have any trust in the U.S. government and the U.S. government's fiat currency anymore. I gotta drop this volume just a little bit more. That's way too loud in my ears, which means it's probably too loud in your ears too. But I mean, hey, if you guys bought it on the dip at 41,000, you're not rich, but well, you're feeling a little bit better than you were before. I can say that. So look into your Bitcoin, look into your wallets, and see what you've got, and see where it went from there. Looking in at your scrap metal prices. Copper continues to be on a drop, steel is on a rise, and aluminum's average is also going down onto a drop today. Looking at your individuals, looks like anything that has copper in it is down at this point. All the way across the board, we're seeing red. Shells, brass, Romex, tubing, wire, everything with copper is down. It's hard to see where they might say that steel is up because steel BX, light iron, number one steel, cast iron, rotors, complete car, stainless steel, those are all down as well. But shreddable steel must be holding up enough to hold it all up here. On the aluminum, siding is up, aluminum copper fin is down, aluminum radiators are down, cans are up, sheet aluminum is down, rims are up, your other things, electric motors are up, lead is up, batteries are down. 4 out of the 5 catalytic converter categories are up, with large GM cats being down. Alternators are down, so a little bit of a mixed bag coming off of here. I'm not quite sure how these numbers on the top shake out with what I'm seeing down here, but choose your metal turning in appropriately. All right, let's start with IBD. Sorry, my throat is a little bit rough today. I've been sneezing all day because it rained. I don't even know if it's still raining. Is it still raining? Yeah, it's still raining out there. I can hear it. These headphones are great. Noise canceling is fuck. I cannot hear the rain through this. I can hear the music, and I can hear usually the news stories, but if I have them on and it's raining outside, unless there's a clap of thunder, I can't hear a goddamn thing. Which means that you guys can't hear a goddamn thing either. Well, no, you guys can hear it off the microphone, but yeah, I can't hear a thing off of that. But I was filibustering a little bit because it rained, and because it rained, that kicked up the pollen, and I've sneezed, I think, 25 times since I got up this morning. Which means my throat's a little bit raw. We're going to have a little bit of throat clearing. I apologize for that in advance, and I might have to run up and go blow my nose again, but I think that's all taken care of. That's why I was filibustering, because I was going to try and see if I could go for a while without having to blow my nose again, but, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see where that goes. Let's check in with IBD for the morning. Dow Jones futures jump as market rally gains momentum on McConnell debt limit offer, from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures rose sharply Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The major indices finished modestly higher on Wednesday, rebounding from a sharp morning lows amid a McConnell debt limit offer. The stock market rally attempt is gaining momentum, with a number of growth names looking promising, but it's still a market correction for now. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said Wednesday that Republicans would let Democrats pass a short-term debt limit extension, and we know just how long a short-term thing is in the government. Oh, yes, this is a short-term, which means it won't go until December of next year. That's a short-term thing for us, right? Democrat senators signaled they would accept the offer. Affirm Holdings surged yet again on Wednesday, this time on a new buy now, pay later partnership with Target. Affirm stock spiked, flashing multiple buy signals and hitting its highest levels since February. After the close, Twitter... You know what? I want to back up onto that just a second here. We're seeing a lot more buy now, pay later stuff. We're seeing it coming out of Amazon. They're seeing it. You're starting to see it out of Square and some other retailers off of that, which... I try not to buy anything on credit if I can help it. I know that right now I am sitting at the credit limit on my credit card, or, well, close enough to it, but I'm working on getting that taken care of, because I did put some things onto there where I needed to for moving expenses and whatnot. But With all that being said, I mean, buy now, pay later, that's just the credit card mantra in and of itself. So I don't know why we're doing something new where it's something internal to these storefronts. And that's the other thing too. I mean, as far as buying on credit goes, unless you're sitting in or doing something where you're specifically trying to get the miles or the points or anything else on your credit card, you're trying to get a reward specifically for that. I mean, if you're going and shopping at Target and getting 17 candles, a couple of towels, a little bit of groceries, and a mixing stand, dude, pay cash for it. Pay for it up front and be done with it. Or spread it out like I do. I don't go into Target and make a big purchase and make a bunch of other big purchases along with it. If I need a mixer and I go to Target, I go in and I get the mixer and I don't get anything else. Or if I want to go and get a couple of candles or something like that, because I do like to have candles around, and they do. By the way, lighting a candle, I've noticed, helps keep the pollen down as well. But if you go in and you want to get like a couple of candles or something, go do that, or get some dish soap or something else like that. Department store shopping is not something. It's not a major purchase. You shouldn't be doing this on credit. And I don't understand where we're going with this and why we keep going off this. I talked about this when Amazon picked up a buy now, pay later kind of situation too. And I think PayPal is doing it as well. Why buy it on credit? Just pay the cash up front for it. Then you know it's paid for. Then you know that once that emergency comes up, you're not going to have to sit and worry about whether or not you can pay that bill for the 25 candles you just bought at Target. I don't understand this whole buy now, pay later thing, but it's been going on since I was a kid too. After the close, Twitter agreed to sell its MoPub mobile ad network to AppLovin for $1.05 billion. Twitter stock rose modestly in extended trading, trying to get above its 200-day and 50-day lines. AppLovin stock surged 10% overnight, signaling a strong move past a handle buy point. Snowstock, Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks, Zscaler, Salesforce, Microsoft, and Bill.com are showing strength. Software makers are relatively insulated from supply chain woes plaguing much of the economy. Snowflake, Fortinet, Palo Alto, and ZS stock all rebounded from or reclaimed their 50-day moving averages, while Bill.com has bounced from its 10-week line. CRM stock rallied off its 21-day moving average on the verge of reclaiming a breakout buy point in a stronger market. Aggressive investors could take advantage of all these names. Meanwhile, Microsoft stock rose to the cusp of its 50-day line. A flat base buy point isn't far above that key level, according to MarketSmith analysis. The price of Bitcoin pulled back overnight after racing higher Tuesday and Wednesday. Bitcoin and crypto-related plays also rallied, including Marathon Digital, Grayscale, Bitcoin Trust, and CoinDesk. Meanwhile, energy stocks fell solidly as oil prices declined and natural gas prices tumbled after both had soared to record highs. Financials were steady as Treasury yields reversed from multi-month highs to finish slightly lower. Microsoft is on the IBD leaderboard. Fortinet stock and Microsoft are IBD long-term leaders. We will skip this section because we will be talking about this in its own dedicated article, or 3. So we will go right down to the futures. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.9% versus fair value, building momentum as the opening bell grows near. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.95%, and NASDAQ 100 futures jumped 1.25%. Crude oil futures fell more than 1%, extending Wednesday's losses. Energy prices cooled slightly in Europe, where natural gas prices have skyrocketed. The 10-year Treasury yield was little changed at 1.53%. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the Labor Department will release weekly jobless claims data ahead of Friday's September jobs report. Chinese markets rallied overnight, in part because President Biden and President Xi Jinping have agreed to hold a virtual meeting before year-end, raising the hopes for de-escalating tensions on trade in Taiwan. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we're seeing coming off of the markets here. A lot of stuff going on with that. A lot of stuff going. Yeah, dude, I cannot understand this. Buy now, pay later for retail stuff. Now, yes, I understand. I am hoping to go out and buy a house early next year, which that's going to be a buy now, pay later kind of thing. I understand that. And that nice white Ford sitting outside, is also out on credit. But those are major purchases that you don't usually have the cash on hand to do. You know, $16,500 is a lot of money to just pull out of your wallet and start throwing $100 bills down. That's 165 $100 bills. And a house is worse, especially in the markets around here. You know, $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 for one of those. Those things are acceptable to take out on credit. But the towels that you're going to put in your bathroom, why pay interest on those? Why? I don't understand that. But somebody does apparently, because they're gaining steam and popularity. People are buying into it. All right. From CNBC. A washer and dryer that's a good one too. Because that's another one of those things, like $5,000, I think, is your average for your new washer and dryer. Who has that kind of cash in their pocket? That's different than flowery towels that you're going to hang up in your bathroom. From CNBC, Dow futures jumped 300 points in relief rally as it appears Congress will avert a government default. From Maggie Fitzgerald and Tanaya Makil. U.S. stock futures jumped on Thursday, continuing Wednesday's midday comeback as Congress appeared near a deal that would raise the debt limit in the short term and avoid a disastrous government default. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures rose 303 points or 0.9%, S&P 500 futures gained 0.97%, and NASDAQ 100 futures jumped 1.2%. The Dow recovered from a 459-point loss on Wednesday and closed more than 100 points higher. A broad range of stocks were higher in pre-market trading. Tech shares Twitter, Nvidia, and AMD were more than 1% higher. GM and Southwest Airlines also rose. Costco added 1% after reported better than expected September sales. Facebook gained after JP Morgan said it was time to buy the recent dip on the stock. On Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen had warned that the U.S. should fully expect a recession if Congress couldn't reach an agreement on the debt ceiling, leading to an unprecedented government default. Then, during the trading day Wednesday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell offered a short-term suspension proposal to Senate Democrats. They were likely to accept that deal that would raise the debt ceiling by a specific amount and allow the government to keep operating until some point in December. So, and we will talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, this is... You knew what this was going to be too, and you knew that if, as we got closer and closer, the Dow was going to drop more and more, and Mitch McConnell, my retirement's going to start dropping more. And I can't insider trade my way out of this, so I've got to come back and do something. And we'll be talking about that up here in the next article. But yeah, prepare for your money to be even more worthless because they're going to borrow and spend and borrow and spend and borrow and spend. Because now they have the ability to do, unhampered. Which they shouldn't have fucking done under the Trump administration either. But I should probably save some of my ire and my anger for this as we get into the main news of the day. Let's get into it. Starting with The Hill. Oh, Wingstop has thighs now? Wingstop has dark meat? Shit. Alright guys, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go find my local Wingstop, which unfortunately I believe is in Madison. McConnell offers Democrats deal to solve debt impasse from Alexander Bolton. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is offering Democrats a deal that could end the standoff over raising the nation's debt ceiling just weeks before a possible default. The GOP leader issued a statement shortly after a Senate Republican caucus lunch announced that he will allow Democrats to increase the nation's borrowing authority for 2 months without having to use the cumbersome and time-consuming budget reconciliation process to avoid a filibuster. Why? Why? Make them use it. Make them use it. But the catch is, McConnell will require Democrats to vote on a higher debt limit number, something they would be required to do under the Senate's budget reconciliation rules instead of only voting on legislation to suspend the debt limit into sometime after next year's midterm election. To protect the American people from a near-term Democrat-created crisis, we will allow Democrats to use normal procedures to pass an emergency debt limit extension at a fixed dollar amount to cover current spending levels into December, McConnell said. The move by McConnell comes as Democrats have begun talking about making exemption to the filibuster to pass a hike to the debt ceiling. But it was not clear Democrats had the votes to do so, with Manchin holding a press conference earlier Wednesday, signaling his opposition to that approach. McConnell has also offered to speed up the budget reconciliation process to raise the debt limit if Democrats decide to go that route. McConnell revealed his new offer to Schumer shortly before the Senate was scheduled to vote on House-passed legislation until after the 2022 midterm election. Business groups have been exerting pressure on the GOP over the debt ceiling, and there's 3/4 of the problem right there, and a number of members were uncomfortable with the stalemate given the risk of a default. And there's the other problem right there. I think you're going to hear from Leader McConnell. He's going to outline the proposal that he's prepared to discuss with Leader Schumer, and I think that's going to give us a way out of the woods, which is what we want, Senator Lisa Murkowski told reporters after lunch. Democrats on Tuesday said they would not agree to use budget reconciliation to raise the debt ceiling. No, of course not, because they need to wait. Because they need to use that for their massive, bloated fucking pork spending package. That was the reason that the Turtle Man was holding out on this. And the reason that he kneeled like a little fucking bitch. Schumer and other Democrats have complained that it would take too long to raise the debt limit via reconciliation, which potentially could require them to hold votes on to discharge an amendment to the 2022 budget resolution out of the committee, and then to hold two lengthy vote-a-ramas to vote on the budget amendment and then a subsequent reconciliation package. McConnell on Wednesday said that his latest offer will address Democrats' stated concerns that voting to increase the debt limit to some number higher than $30 trillion will take too much time and could put the nation at the risk of default. This will move Democrats' excuses about the time crunch they created and give the unified Democratic government more than enough time to pass a standalone debt limit legislation to reconciliation, he said. McConnell also floated the idea of a bipartisan deal on spending if Democrats drop their plans to pass a $1.5 trillion to $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package on party-line vote to implement President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. Alternatively, if Democrats abandon their effort to ram through another historically reckless taxing and spending spree that will hurt families and help China, a more traditional bipartisan governing conversation could be possible, he said. Manchin earlier had urged McConnell and Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer to begin talking to figure out a deal. I truly implore both leaders to engage and start work this out, Manchin said. Senate Minority Whip John Thune, before the lunch meeting, said he was optimistic about the deal. There are a lot of conversations right now about a path forward, and I think that we can find that path, he said. We got to vote this afternoon. I think that after the vote, we'll have a better sense about that. And that's all that the Hill has to say, and I thought it was worthy to come down and read this one entirely throughout its entirety, because there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here. There is a lot of goings on. Now, first and foremost, McConnell, I hate you. And I've supported McConnell in the past when he makes a good decision. But you don't get a pass from me based on the letter after your name. And when you do something tremendously stupid, you need to be called out for it. And this was tremendously fucking stupid. Make them own this, or they can come back out here and we'll be sitting here a few weeks before Christmas. And the fact that they're doing this into December, too, that just makes it even harder for me to believe that they're actually going to do something about this. Because now we'll be sitting here a couple weeks before Christmas. The media is not going to care the fact that McConnell said, oh, now you have more than enough time to solve this. When it comes back down to the wire, it's going to be, evil Mitch McConnell was the one. He's the one that's causing this default, and we're going to default right before Christmas. What do we do, evil Mitch McConnell? Why do we let evil Mitch McConnell stay alive? Why do we let him stay in the Senate? We should just drag him out in the stocks. That kind of stuff. This isn't going to change anything. And they're going to sit on their hands with their thumbs up their fucking asses and do this again in 2 months. And then they're going to be, oh no! Oh no! We're going to hit the debt ceiling again! We're going to run out of money again! Oh no! Mark my fucking words, this is going to happen. That is an autocorrect that could have gone a completely worse direction too, by the way. Yeah, this is... And now Senate Democrats know that you'll blink, too, because all they have to do is get their big business buddies, and their big business buddies absolutely exert control over Republicans as well. Get their big business buddies come in and say, hey, Republicans, you better vote for this, otherwise, you know, you're not going to get that big election boost next time through. You better vote for this. Vote for this, goddammit, otherwise I'm going to withhold all your funding. They know how to hit them now. McConnell shouldn't have fucking moved. Yes, I understand that the budget reconciliation takes time, and they probably couldn't have had it done with all the research and everything else to show that this doesn't affect the budget in any way, shape, or form, in spite of the fact that it does, to give to the parliamentarian before the 18th. That's in 11 days. I understand that takes time. But they waited this long. This is on Democrats, and they're, with the exception of the fact that the mainstream media is in the pocket of the Democrats, and they're going to spin this no matter which fucking way that they can. In spite of all that fact, this was on Democrats. This was. Because they knew this was coming all the way back in January of last year. They knew this was coming. But they just thought, oh, hey, we're going to get Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, and we're going to get these people, and now we're going to have everything. We can just govern. We can ram it down everybody's throats because Kamala will break every tie. And all of our Democrats are going to be in lockstep. But the second Manchin said, I don't like this bill. I don't like this big bill. The second he said that, there should have already been talks of the debt ceiling is coming up. What do we do? The debt ceiling is coming up. What do we do? Instead of sitting around here with your thumb up your fucking ass until we get to this point. But that's what we see coming off of that. From CNBC, Senate GOP leader McConnell offers short-term debt ceiling extension following pressure from Biden. There was no pressure from Biden. Biden can't find his own pants. From Thomas Frank and Christina Wilkie. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Wednesday offered a short-term suspension of the U.S. debt ceiling to avert a national default on economic crises until Democrats are able to pass a more permanent solution before the end of the year. To protect the American people from a near-term Democrat-created crisis, we will allow Democrats to do what Democrats wanted to do, so we will allow them to you know, they're not the ones in control, we're the ones in control. To allow Democrats to use normal procedures to pass an emergency debt limit extension and a fixed dollar amount to cover the current spending levels into December, he said in a statement posted to Twitter. This will moot at Democrats' excuses about the time crunch, wanna fucking bet, that they created and give the unified Democratic government more than enough time to pass a standalone debt limit legislation through reconciliation, the Kentucky Republican added. The development came as President Biden and Democrat leaders in Congress amped up pressure on Republicans to act on the debt limit by going after their donors. The stopgap offer from McConnell would take some pressure off both parties to reach a compromise by October 18th, when the Treasury Department estimates that the U.S. will otherwise exhaust its emergency efforts to pay the government's bills. McConnell on Wednesday reiterated that the GOP would assist Democrats in expediting a reconciliation bill to lift the borrowing cap if Democrat leadership wanted to address the borrowing cap before the October deadline. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki offered somewhat cool comments for the McConnell proposal later on Wednesday. It's my understanding, and I don't have all the facts right in front of me here, but it's my understanding that there's been no formal offer made. A press release is not a formal offer, and regardless, even that the scant details that have been reported present a more complicated, more difficult option than the one that is quite obvious. Okay, no more questions. I'll circle back. Next question, please. So yeah, this is going to be a short-term thing, but we'll mark my words. We'll be doing this again in the beginning of December, talking about the exact same thing. Republicans don't want to pay the bills that Donald Trump, evil orange man, racked up. I don't want to pay the bills that evil orange man racked up. I don't support the bills that evil orange man racked up. On Monday, Biden said Republicans' refusal to join Democrats in voting to suspend the debt limit was hypocritical and dangerous and disgraceful, especially after they voted several times to do so during the former President Trump's 4 years in office. Yeah, they shouldn't have done that either. But like I said at the beginning of this shit, two wrongs does not make a right. They shouldn't have been borrowing and suspending the debt ceiling and racking up all this shit under Trump. But that doesn't mean that they should go back and borrow and spend and rack up all this shit under your decrepit old fucking ass. And not only are Republicans refusing to do their job, but they're threatening to use their power to prevent us from doing our job. Jesus. Oh my God. Did he really just say he's saving the economy? The messianic complex of these people. My God. From a catastrophic event, Biden said. On Wednesday, Biden said much the same thing during a White House event with Fortune 50 CEOs focused on the dire consequences of a credit default. Yeah, I'll be talking about that in just a second, too. All right. On the future of what this is going to do, from Fox Business, Senate Democrats indicate they'll accept a GOP debt ceiling offer. McConnell caved. From Thomas Barabi. Yeah, he did cave. He cucked. He's a little bitch. Senate Democrats indicated Wednesday that they plan to accept the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's offer for a short-term suspension of the debt ceiling, with some claiming that the Kentucky Republican had caved following a tense standoff on Capitol Hill. Democrats spoke out after a closed-door meeting in which they discussed McConnell's offer to raise the debt ceiling by a fixed dollar amount through December. Republicans had blocked efforts to suspend the borrowing limit for weeks, arguing Democrats should address the crisis through the budget reconciliation process. McConnell caved, Senator Elizabeth Warren told reporters after the meeting, and now we're going to spend our time doing child care, health care, and fighting climate change. Mitch folded, and we have until December to build back better, and we will, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island wrote on Twitter. Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, oh, this will be some good news, told CNN that Democrats view McConnell's offer as a temporary victory in the dispute. McConnell said Republicans would allow Democrat leaders to use normal procedures to pass the emergency debt limit extension, and the federal government faces the possibility of a default on its debt obligations by October 18th if an agreement is not reached. Yeah, and I mean, that's where we're at now. Now, some of this is inaccurate information. This is not a debt ceiling suspension. This is a temporary, with a fixed number raise of the debt ceiling, which they didn't give us a number. I hope they give us a number throughout the day today. I want to see just how much it is that they think they need to borrow against the national debt again to go and pay their bills. And how much we need to slash from our spending so they don't have to do this again. Why can we not slash our fucking spending? I don't know. There's no budget here. Random Randy points that out perfectly, too. There's no budget here to reconcile it. They're just looking for more money that they can run back out and spend. All right, let's listen to the House Plant Chief. Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't the House Plant Chief yet. That's his speech. It's the next one. Never mind. But this one here, this is another one that the House Plant Chief has been ripped up and down about. So look at this set here. This is fucking ridiculous. President Biden. This afternoon, come on, man. I held a meeting with business leaders on the need to raise the debt ceiling. We discussed the urgency of this moment and the devastating impact it could have on Americans' pocketbooks. Which means that these business leaders, the rich that they're trying to tax or they're claiming that they're trying to tax, because they're not actually trying to tax them, but the rich that they're claiming they're trying to tax, are coming in here and begging the government to raise the debt ceiling so they can buy more of the government. Because who's holding the bonds? China, other foreign nations, and these fuckers. From Local10.com, Biden hosts meeting with business leaders on addressing the debt limit. From Lisa Mascaro and Jonathan Lemire of the Associated Press. Republican and Democrat leaders edged back on Wednesday from a perilous standoff over lifting the nation's borrowing cap, with Democrat senators signaling they were receptive to an offer from Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell that would allow an emergency extension into December. McConnell made the offer shortly before Republicans were prepared to block legislation to suspend the debt limit until December of next year, and as President Biden and business leaders ramped up their concerns that an unprecedented federal default would disrupt government payments to millions of people and throw the nation into recession. The emerging agreement sets the stage for a sequel of sorts in December, when Congress will again face pressing deadlines to fund the government and raise the debt limit before heading home for the holidays. A procedural vote on the longer extension on the Republicans will block was abruptly delayed late Wednesday when Senate recessed so lawmakers could discuss the next steps. Democrats emerged from their meeting more optimistic that a crisis would be averted. Basically, I'm glad that Mitch McConnell finally saw the light, said Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont. The Republicans have finally done the right thing, and at least now we have another couple months in order to get a more permanent solution and more pudding cups in the lunchroom. Senator Chris Murphy added that, assuming final details in the emergency legislation are in order, for the next 3 months we'll continue to make it clear that we're ready to continue to vote to pay our bills and Republicans aren't. See what you did, you fucker? So, unsurprisingly, McConnell portrayed it very differently. This will moot Democrats' excuses about the time crunch they created and give the unified Democratic government more than enough time to pass the standalone bill debt limit legislation through a reconciliation, he said. So, that's where they're standing right now off of this. And, I mean, how much taxpayer money, and I gotta ask the question because nobody else is gonna ask it, how much taxpayer money was spent rather to make this ridiculous set in the White House, in this fake White House? How much was this to make this all pretty for the fucking TV? Alright, let's listen to the House Plant Chief here. Let's drop the music and listen to what he has to say.
And for joining me today to talk about the need to raise the debt limit. We haven't failed to do that since our inception as a country. We need to act. These leaders know the need to act. The United States pays its bills. It's who we are. It's who we've been. It's who we're going to continue to be, God willing. That's what's called the full faith and credit of the United States. Let me be clear. Raising the debt limit is paying our old debts. There's nothing to do with new spending or what may be coming this year or other years. There's nothing to do with my plans on infrastructure or building back better, both of which are paid for, but they're not even in the queue right now. It's about paying for what we owe and preventing a catastrophic event occurring in our economy. I'm glad these leaders are here to talk about the real world impact this is going to have on people and on our position in the world. Today's discussion won't be partisan. It shouldn't be. Raising the debt limit is usually bipartisan. Let me speak for my...
And that's a big part of the problem, is that raising the debt limit is often bipartisan. It's always bipartisan. The government coming out and spending more of your money, your hard-earned money, that they come back in demand that you pay into them again. And then they keep promising, all we're going to do is tax the rich. Well, then those prices get passed on to the customers. So Do you not understand economics if you never run a business before? This is not the person who should be in charge of the government by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, if this is about paying our old debts, there's nothing to do with new spending, and my bill is completely paid for, why are you asking for a suspension? That's been the other problem here. And now McConnell has come out here and pointed out the fact that, yeah, we want to do this on a specific number. We don't want to just a willy-nilly raise the debt ceiling, which is good because they got it under his leadership. Under McConnell's leadership in the Senate, they got the willy-nilly spending all over the place. And look at where we are now. But nobody offers the fact of why can't we cut spending? All right, let's keep going. Oh, I'm way down here. So I wanted to touch on this because we're talking about some of this tax spending and some of these Fortune 50 companies who are probably up taking advantage of this here. Here's how states like South Dakota have become global tax havens from Katie Dorr, CFP. So this is an op-ed, but this is one that, you know, given the fact that we're talking about tax the rich, tax this, tax that, tax everything else in the fucking world, that this is actually worth talking just a little bit about, and some of the propaganda that's in this as well, because they're trying to paint South Dakota as a miserable den of thieves so that Noam can't run for president. Offshore tax havens have long been a refuge for wealthy individuals trying to hide assets. Now, states like South Dakota, Nevada, and others have become magnets for those dodging taxes. I was just saying, are we off Twitch? But no, we're back on. That's according to the Pandora Papers, a collection of nearly 12 million leaked private financial records gathered by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. The documents revealed those hiding money in mansions, yachts, and other property in low-tax sanctuaries worldwide. These people are what Charlie Murphy would call habitual line steppers. Rick James is what we call a habitual line stepper. They actually invoked a Dave Chappelle sketch in a CNBC document. Said Eric Pierre, an Austin, Texas-based certified public accountant, owner of Pierre Accounting and co-host of the CPA Huddle podcast. Historically, when the ultra-wealthy wanted to shelter money from creditors or taxing authorities, they funneled money into places like Switzerland or the Cayman Islands, said Michael Heller, vice dean and professor of real estate law at Columbia Law University. While banking abroad isn't illegal, some Americans and U.S. companies fail to report earnings. Congress cracked down in 2010 with the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act requiring international banks to report U.S.-owned accounts. A few years later, other countries agreed to disclose foreign-held assets to each other, known as the Common Reporting Standard. However, the U.S. doesn't follow this practice, Heller said. Without rules to report foreign-owned assets to investors, respective countries to the U.S. have become the world's dumping ground for hot money, Heller said. Foreign wealthy families wanted to come to the U.S. because they got both the security from the U.S. banking system and the secrecy that they formerly got from places like Switzerland, he said. And some states have altered tax and estate policies to capture the inflows of wealth, Heller said, boosting the appeal for domestic and investors abroad. South Dakota, in particular, has become a major destination for foreign assets, according to the Pandora Papers, with 81 trusts named in the report. The state's trust assets have more than quadrupled to $360 billion over the past decade. The report binds. Year after year in South Dakota, state lawmakers have approved legislation drafted by trust industry insiders, providing more and more protections and other benefits for trust customers in the U.S. and abroad, the paper said. One of the biggest incentives is the state's ban on the rule against perpetuities for so-called dynasty trusts, allowing families to pass wealth from generation to generation indefinitely without estate taxes at each death. Good. Good. Because think about how that money got to these rich people. First off, it got patriated into the U.S., which there's a tax for that. when they bring money into the U.S., there is a tax for that. Then the money that got earned off that money that was brought in, that was taxed. Capital gains tax is the one that taxes that. So yeah, that was taxed. The money that they earned from doing business in the U.S., that was taxed. The sales tax on many of these large ticket items that they use to build their wealth, that's taxed. And then why is it taxed again every single time it gets passed on to another person? So good on South Dakota. Good. Absolutely good. But yes, this coming into 2022, the midterms, and then 2024, the presidential, they need to paint South Dakota as the most evil place they can possibly paint it as. Because otherwise, Nome might become the president. From Insider. Shifting gears here, let's talk about the January 6th Selfie Fest. A former Trump aide was subpoenaed by the House committee investigating the January 6th Selfie Fest more than a week ago. Investigators still can't find him. From Sarah Al-Arshani. A Trump aide still hasn't been served a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Selfie Fest after it was issued more than a week ago, CNN reported. Multiple sources told CNN that investigators are unable to find former Deputy Chief Dan Scavino. Scavino, alongside former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former advisor Steve Bannon, and former Chief of Staff to former Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller, Kash Patel, were subpoenaed on September 23rd, the Washington Post reported. The request ordered all four to hand over documents by October 7th and appear for depositions by October 15th, CNN reported. That's today! The 7th, anyway. The committee, which was chaired by Democratic Rep. Benny Thompson, is working to piece together what former President Trump knew leading up to the riots. The Post reported that following the subpoenas, former President Trump said he'd invoke executive privilege to block them. Hopefully, the Unselect Committee will be calling witnesses in the rigged presidential election of 2020, which is the primary reason that hundreds of thousands of people went to Washington, D.C. in the first place, Trump said. CNN reported that the committee told Scavino could provide useful information because of his communication and work with Trump. The committee thinks he could give key information on Trump's behavior on January 6th. Since August, the committee has ramped up efforts, issuing numerous public records requests to 7 executive branch agencies, including for records on communication between Trump and many key allies. Insider could not reach Scavino for comment. Obviously. Because if the federal government can't find him, Business Insider can't find him either. So, he's on the run. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows what's going on with this. But, I mean, what are we going to solve? What is Congress going to find that the FBI couldn't find with carte blanche to go investigate this thing to the ends of the fucking earth? Nothing. Nothing. From CNN. Oh, this is a video. I thought this was an article. Will 4 Trump aides defy riot probe subpoenas? Well, I guess let's listen. Give it a second to think.
Mark Meadows, a friend of mine right from the beginning.
Tonight, members of Donald Trump's inner circle, seemingly unresponsive to the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol as the clock ticks toward tomorrow's deadline for receiving documents. More than a week since subpoenaing former Trump Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino to cooperate, the committee has been unable to physically serve the subpoena to him, according to multiple sources.
Who knows what he's really up to, but I can definitely tell you that this is not a subpoena he wants to see right now.
Scavino has not responded to CNN's requests for comment. One source familiar with the situation joked that the House committee should tweet the subpoena to Scavino because he's been actively trolling the committee on Twitter in recent days. 3 other former Trump aides subpoenaed by the House panel, former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former advisor Steve Bannon, and former National Security aide Kash Patel, have apparently received the subpoenas served to them, but none of them have responded.
This is information that they know will land the ex-president in hot water, if not themselves. And so I you can expect these guys, privately are trying to figure out what is a way they can get out of this.
What if none of these former Trump confidants cooperate with the House committee, if they don't submit documents or don't show up to testify as they've been scheduled to do?
At some point, there will come a moment in time when the committee decides that it has waited enough time, it has been flexible enough. What the committee would do next is then it would make a criminal referral to the Justice Department. And it would be up to the Justice Department to determine whether there is a case to enforce for contempt or potentially even obstruction.
So, and I mean, that's actually really important to point out with this, and that's, I know that the Daily Beast is running out there. They're running their mouths and saying, "Oh, well, Trump is ordering all of his confidants not to comply with the subpoenas. He's making the order to do that." If he is indeed making that order, he is, what is the word for that? He is stupid. He is a stupid man. Which, given what we saw from the last 4 years, I don't believe that he's a stupid man. I know that our friends on the left would like you to believe that he is the less intelligent version of Goebbels. But he's not a stupid man. And that would be stupid. Because, yes, they're going to do criminal referrals to this, and they'll do a criminal referral to him. If the House subpoenas you, then you do have to go. Otherwise, you wind up in a cell. I don't like it, and I don't know why the House is doing the subpoenaing when that should be an executive branch function. The executive branch enforces the law, but we can dicker over internal procedure for the government forever and ever, and they'll just change the rules when they need to get their way again. But it is. I mean, go up there, let them know. I don't know if they're going to put them under oath, which I don't think they can because they want to grill these people and make them flip. But go up there. I don't know. I don't recall. Don't perjure yourself. But choose your words carefully when you're going up there. And yeah, they will. I mean, if you guys skip out on this stuff, you're going to wind up in a cell. You are. So that's what you see coming out of that. All right, let's keep going. From CBS, whistleblower claims Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives personnel were improperly paid bonuses reserved for criminal investigators. From Catherine Herridge and Megan Towie. A whistleblower is accusing the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives of fraud, waste, and abuse. CBS News was told the alleged practice could potentially involve hundreds of millions of tax dollars across multiple federal agencies. Oh. You don't say. You're telling me that the organization of the government that gets utilized to come and take your guns away from you when you're a bad boy it's not above board, it's not on the level. It might be a little bit, I don't know, corrupt? Who would have thought? The whistleblower said some in the administrative jobs at the agency were paid a special bonus known as a Law Enforcement Availability Pay, or LEAP, even though they did not qualify. Government regulations stipulate the bonus is reserved for criminal investigators who are on call and expected to work unscheduled additional hours. The whistleblower, named Joe, who has to be disguised and for his last name to not be used, told CBS News that he had noticed problems at the ATF almost immediately after he began working there in 2016 as an information specialist in the Human Resources Department. Dude, don't piss off the HR dude. Don't piss off the HR dude. Vampire Hunter D, are you in the Discord? And if you are, can you link something for that for me, please? Because that I want to talk about. That I want to talk about. So if you could link something of that to me, that would be great. I know you can't link it in the Twitch chat because you're not a... Yeah, no, I want a reminder. Just so at the end of the show, I know to go back and look for it. I will Google it, though. Google it! Hey, Ben, there's a thing called Google. You should use it. That video, by the way, is part of the reason I'm sitting here in front of this microphone. Because of that video, I was looking for some analysis of that video. That's how I found Christensen. And Christensen is the reason that I went from being a written blog writer to a vlogger and then eventually to a live streamer. So, thank you, Cenk. Google it! If you were functioning in an administrative capacity, you don't qualify for the pay, so you're not supposed to get it, he said. And a lot of people were getting it. The pay bump was 25%. So if you're making $100,000 and you got Leibt, you got $125,000, he said. Joe said he flagged the alleged violations to his supervisors. An ATF email reviewed by CBS News indicates that Joe's supervisors were upset about what he told them. He shared personnel records with CBS News that indicate his performance reviews went from fully successful before he made the complaint to minimally successful after he lost his job last summer for unacceptable performance. Last year, a lawyer for the Office of Special Counsel said the investigative body found a substantial likelihood of wrongdoing. An Office of Personnel Management audit concluded at least 94 employees were inappropriately classified. The office suspended the ATF's ability to create certain jobs for no less than 6 months, saying the Bureau may have engaged in prohibited personnel practices. So, there's that. A government agency that's corrupt. Who'd have thought? From Reuters. U.S. judge blocks enforcement of near-total abortion ban in Texas. Gee, Reuters, let me start by coming here and telling you everything about your headline that's wrong. It is not a near-total abortion ban. It is prior to a heartbeat, first and foremost. You still have plenty of time to go get that morning after pill. And again, you know what happened the night before. If you've got to wait until your kid has a heartbeat, you're waiting too long. That's the first part of this. And number two, there's no enforcement mechanism. You go out and you sue, if you think so. I think the ability to sue is way too broad in this situation, and I think it needs to be reined into a party that is specifically aggrieved by the situation. But no, none of this is correct. From Sarah N. Lynch. A federal judge on Wednesday temporarily blocked a near-total ban on abortion in Texas, the toughest such law in the U.S., in a challenge brought by President Joe Biden's admin after the U.S. Supreme Court had allowed it to go into effect. The action by U.S. District Judge Robert Pittman in Austin prevents the state from enforcing the Republican-backed law, which prohibits women from obtaining an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. While litigation over its legality continues, the case is part of a fierce legal battle over abortion access in the U.S., with numerous states pursuing restrictions. The court will not sanction one more day of this offensive deprivation of such an important right, Pittman said during the ruling. Is this a dude? Robert Pittman. Okay, here's what I have to say to you, Robert Pittman. Hey, spot the simp! Find the simp! Spot the simp! Biden's Justice Department sued Texas on September 9th and sought a temporary injunction against the law, arguing during an October 1st hearing that the measure violates the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Supreme Court on September 1st let the law take effect in a 5-4 vote, powered by conservative justices. At 6 weeks of pregnancy, many women do not yet know they're pregnant. There's that fallacy. The law makes no exceptions for pregnancies caused by rape or incest. It also lets ordinary citizens enforce the ban, rewarding them at least $10,000 if they successfully sue anyone who helped provide an abortion after fetal cardiac activity is detected. Critics of the law have said this provision enables people to act as anti-abortion bounty hunters. No! No, 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 that's not what a bounty is. Why is everything stupid? The Justice Department argued that the law impedes women from exercising their constitutional right to terminate a pregnancy that was recognized in the Supreme Court's 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion nationwide. No, it did not. Because the legislature would need to do that. The department also argued the law improperly interferes with the operations of federal government to provide abortion-related services. Greg Abbott, a Republican, has defended the legality of the state's abortion law, with his office saying in a statement, "The most precious freedom is life itself." Pittman heard about 3 hours of arguments on the Justice Department's request. Justice Department Attorney Brian Netter called the law an unprecedented scheme of vigilante justice that must be struck down. Bill Thompson, an attorney in the Texas Attorney General's office, countered the department's argument, saying there were plenty of opportunities for people in Texas to challenge this law on their own. He said the department's arguments were filled with hyperbole and inflammatory rhetoric. Yeah, that's the other side of this, is why is the Justice Department doing this? Why are we not seeing aggrieved parties in Texas doing this? Bringing this to a federal court, bringing this to a higher court, bringing this to the Supreme Court. Why does it have to be the Justice Department that's coming out and doing this? Is it maybe because, with the exception of a handful of people, this is actually pretty popular in Texas, in the Bible Belt? Or that they don't want people to go out there and suddenly realize that they can't go out and offer up their satanic child sacrifice? I don't know. But it is blocked for right now, so we will see where that goes and what happens with that. From New York Post. Oh, this story. Texas high school shooting. Suspect who injured 4 in Arlington. Police. Texas high school shooting. Suspect who injured 4 in Arlington is, that one extra word in that headline would have made this a lot easier to see, is in police custody after a manhunt. From Tamar Lapine and Jackie Sallow. A Texas student opened fire during a fight at his high school on Wednesday morning, leaving 4 people injured and later surrendered following a manhunt, police said. The shooting left panicked students at Timberview High School in Arlington scrambling and barricading in their classrooms. Timothy George Simpkins, who was arrested on 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, Assistant Police Chief Kevin Colby said. This is not a random act of violence. This is not somebody attacking our schools, Colby said at a press conference. This was a student. They got in a fight and drew a weapon, he added. Police said Simpkins pulled the weapon after getting into an altercation at around 9:15 a.m. local time on the 2nd floor of the school. 3 of the victims were rushed to the hospital for treatment, at least 2 of them for gunshot wounds. Among them was Calvin Pettit, a 25-year-old English teacher who suffered broken ribs and a collapsed lung, according to his family. He got shot in the back, and they said he's really lucky because it barely missed his aorta, his sister wrote on Twitter. He'll be in the hospital for a few days, but he's going to be fine, she added. So, and this is the thing. This goes with this. So, and I did point this out on Twitter yesterday. Now, I understand fully what the rules are, that we're not supposed to pay attention to school shootings right now. These past 2 have shown it. The one where the 25-year-old guy went in and shot up the principal, and then this one where the kid got into a fight and then he pulled out a gun. I understand we are not supposed to pay attention to this, that we're not supposed to look at this, we're not supposed to call this, but I need to ask the question as to whether or not that's because of the letter after the name of the person who's currently sitting in the presidential office, or if it's because of the color of the perpetrator's skin in both cases. I need to know why I'm not supposed to pay attention to this. But that's what we see going on with that. So that's going to fall to the wayside. This is scary shit right here. From Felix over on Twitter tweets out, "You will get the vaccine or you will die one way or another. UC Health." Which, I mean, we're all going to die. It's going to happen. Nobody gets out of this thing called life alive. But it seems that some people are intent to accelerate that. This is an actual letter that came from UC Health to I guess it doesn't say the name of the person as I think the article says the name, but yeah, this is an actual letter that comes from them. September 28th, 2021. Let's blow this up a little. Oh, I guess that actually made it smaller. The transplant team at University of Colorado has determined that it is necessary to place you inactive on the waiting list. You will be inactivated on the list for noncompliance by not receiving the COVID vaccine. You will have 30 days to begin the vaccination series. If your decision is to refuse COVID vaccination, you will be removed from the kidney transplant list. You will continue to accrue waiting time, but you will not receive a kidney offer while listed inactive. Once you complete the COVID vaccination series, you will be reactivated on the kidney transplant list, pending any other changes in your health condition. If you have any questions or concerns, please call me. Attached is a letter from the United Network of Organ Sharing. It describes services and information offered to patients by UNOS and the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network. Sincerely, Katie Heyman, BSN RN, Kidney Transplant Coordinator, University of Colorado Health, and her information is there. This is demonic. This is scary. This actually frightens me just a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Get the holy jab, or you won't be... It is. Let's talk just a bit about that too. Reading from Denver 7, thedenverchannel.com. Colorado Springs woman's name inactive on UC Health kidney transplant list over vaccination status. From Patrick Perez. An El Paso County woman says she won't be able to get a kidney transplant through UC Health because she's not vaccinated against the pinko pox. Leilani Lutali learned of this after receiving a letter dated September 28th from UC Health Transplant Center at its Anschutz Medical Campus. I feel coerced. I feel like my life is being held in their hands in exchange for a shot, and the attitude is just take the shot, Lutali told Denver 7 sister station KOAA on Tuesday. The letter has gotten a lot of attention, including from State Rep Tim Geithner, a Republican serving El Paso County. The understanding is basically conform to this demand, take this COVID vaccine or otherwise you will be denied a life-saving procedure, he said. In a Facebook Live, the state lawmaker says he contacted UC Health several times to get them to provide an exception. I've had 2 to 3 exchanges actually, a few text messages, a couple of phone calls, a couple of emails in and around the issue, Geithner said. There's very little that UC Health is prepared to do, an exemption policy or change of policy or accommodating or anything else. UC Health sent Denver 7 the following statement regarding its policy. Let's read a little bit of this here. UC Health's priorities provide excellent safe care for transplant patients before, during, and after a transplant surgery. An organ transplant is a unique surgery that leads to a lifetime of specialized management to ensure an organ is not rejected, which can lead to serious complications, the need for a subsequent transplant surgery, or even death. Physicians must consider the short and long-term health risk for patients as they consider whether to recommend an organ transplant. Transplant centers across the nation, including the UC Health Transplant Center, have specific requirements in place to protect patients both during and after surgery. For example, patients may be required to receive vaccinations, including hepatitis B, MMR, and others. Patients may also be required to avoid alcohol, stop smoking, or prove that they will be able to continue taking their anti-rejection medications long after their transplant surgery. These requirements increase the likelihood that a transplant will be successful and the patient will avoid rejection. In almost all situations, transplant recipients and living donors at UC Health are now required to be vaccinated against the COVID-19 in addition to meeting other health requirements and receiving additional vaccinations. Some U.S. transplant centers already have this requirement in place, and others are making the change in policy now. So that's the way they're trying to justify this. But I mean, you got a person who's got a weakened immune system already. This COVID vax has been shown to cause a person to get wildly sick in the midst of it. Now, usually by the end of it, they do wind up being better off of it. I get that. But on a person where I guess I would not recommend taking any vaccinations right now, especially if you're in stage 5 renal failure. But hey, I guess the doctors know better. One more here. UC Health denies kidney transplant to unvaccinated woman in stage 5 renal failure. From Emma Colton over at Fox News. A Colorado woman with stage 5 renal failure is scrambling to find a new hospital to perform a kidney transplant after the health system in the state denied the transplant due to her and her donor being unvaccinated against the coronavirus. Here I am, willing to be a direct donor to her. It does not affect any other patient on the transplant list. Jamie Fogner, Leilani at Lutali's kidney donor, told CBS 4, "How can I sit here and allow them to murder my friend when I've got a perfectly good kidney and can save her life?" Lutali said she received a letter from Colorado Health System, UC Health, at the end of September, explaining that she and Fogner have 30 days to begin the vaccine process. They would be removed from the kidney transplant list if they refuse the shots. I said I'll sign a medical waiver. I have to sign a waiver anyway for the transplant itself, releasing them from anything that could possibly go wrong, said Lutali. It's surgery. It's invasive. I sign a waiver for my life. I'm not sure I can't sign a waiver for the COVID shot. So, I mean, this goes up on top of everything else with this. This goes on top of the fact that she's on the waiting list for this already, and now there's somebody who's directly donating this kidney specifically to go to this woman, both of whom are unvaccinated, and they're both denied for doing this. This is sick. This is disgusting. But hey, the doctors know better, apparently. From ABC7, more vaccine news. Garcetti signs COVID vaccine mandate for indoor spaces starting on November 29th. Mayor Garcetti has signed an ordinance that will require people in LA to show proof of full vaccination before entering indoor restaurants, bars, gyms, shopping centers, entertainment venues, and personal care establishments. The mayor's approval came just hours after the LA County City Council passed the measure considered one of the strictest in the nation. While the measure takes effect 31 days after the mayor's signature, the city will begin enforcement of this as of November 29th. The city already requires full vaccination or proof of negative COVID tests for mega events, which includes such sporting events and concerts attended by more than 10,000 people. The new vaccine mandate passed with 11 votes Wednesday morning, which is just short of the 12 votes needed to pass with the urgency clause, allowing it to take effect immediately. Retail establishments, including grocery stores and pharmacies, are not included. Since voting 13-0 on August 11th to request the ordinance be prepared by the city attorney, a majority of council members have expressed support for the measure that would require proof of vaccinations. So, there you go. That's what we see coming off of this. Alright. I have actually got to step away for a second again. But I don't want to do this without giving you guys something to watch here, so let's look at something here. Let's look at... So let's listen to this for a second. No, that's not what I want. Alright. I'll be right back, actually. So... Sorry for one unprofessional break off of that one. I tried to schedule these around where I have a video or something to play, but this one, yeah, I had to step away for a second here. But let's go talk about this out of Germany here. Bernie's tweets out, Germany, yellow badges to identify the vaccinated. I've been vaccinated in the center, the image of a syringe signal in red. Yes, they really have done this. A yellow pin that you wear on the outside of your clothes to show that you're vaccinated. This is fine. Everything is fine. This is fine. Don't worry about this. This is fine. All right. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, more Americans have died this year from COVID-19 than in all of 2020. From Ryan Saavedra. More Americans have died this year from the coronavirus than died from the coronavirus last year, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. I need a citation on that, dude. More than 353,000 COVID-19 deaths have been reported since January 1st, compared with 352,000 COVID-19 deaths in the first 10 months of the pandemic, ABC News reported. Over the last month, the U.S. has reported more than 47,000 deaths. It's worth noting that a lot of deaths happened during the first few weeks of 2021, right before Biden admin took over. A daily coronavirus death tracker from the Free Beacon indicates that more than 293,000 deaths have happened on Biden's watch. President Biden repeatedly touted the campaign trail that he'd a plan to end the pandemic, a key issue that he used to attack then-President Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm going to need a citation on this one, you guys, because I don't buy the death numbers out of 2020, and I sure don't buy the death numbers out of 2021, as every time they need to come back and make a panic to try to convince you to get vaccinated or take more government control, they come and tell you, oh, this many people have died, this many people have died, this many people have died. And I always cite the guy without a helmet who slammed his motorcycle into the back of a semi, who died with COVID, and he got marked as a COVID death. I don't believe any of these numbers. It sure is nice, though, when that hospital gets extra government money for having a COVID death inside of it. We've got one here from NPR for you guys, and it comes to them by the Associated Press. But it's so important NPR has to publish it in their nice, quiet microphones. So, FBI raids New York police surgeons, union offices, and the union president resigns. And make sure that you donate to NPR. Our political betters over at NPR. Make sure that you give them your money, comrade. I mean our money, because they need it to buy more microphones and extend their reach to spread their communist ideals around the country. NPR, National Progressive Radio. Federal agents raided the offices Tuesday of a New York City police union, the Surgeons Benevolent Association, and the Long Island home of its bombastic leader, who has clashed with city officials over his incendiary tweets and hardline tactics. FBI spokesperson Martin Feely said agents were carrying out law enforcement action in connection with an ongoing investigation. Agents were seen carrying boxes out of the union's Manhattan headquarters and loading them into a van. The FBI also searched Union President Ed Mullen's home in Port Washington, Long Island, Feely said. Mullins resigned as the union's president Tuesday night at the behest of its board, according to a message the union sent to its members. The union represents about 13,000 active and retired NYPD sergeants and controls a $264 million retirement fund. The nature and scope of this criminal investigation has yet to be determined. However, it's clear that President Mullins is apparently the target of the federal investigation. We have no reason to believe that any other members of the SBA is involved or targeted in this matter, the union's message said. Well, it kind of sounds to me like he was a thorn in the side of somebody on the federal government side, and either city officials or state officials or somebody above used the federal government to go and do their bidding. So, there they are, carrying all the boxes out. Yeah. I looked like I saw something about QAnon in here. No. Anyway, yeah, this looks like this is just a thorn in the side kind of thing, and corrupt New York City politics. From the LA Times, there are California students still stuck in Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover. From Justin Ray. Oh, wait, I was told that I was a conspiracy theorist if I thought that there was anybody that didn't want to leave that was still there after August 31st. I was told that the evacuation went smoothly and nothing went wrong. Oh, guess we're changing that narrative. From Justin Ray. Good morning and welcome to the Essential California Newsletter. It's Wednesday, October 6th. I'm Justin Ray. In August, the Biden admin began what would become a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. We learned that some California students and their families were stuck in the country. San Diego students, coming students rather, who had been unable to flee, first made headlines. Then it was discovered that Sacramento area students were in the same predicament. The last U.S. planes departed around midnight August 30th, though not every American citizen was able to make it on board. Although the San Diego students' situation was more discussed, there appeared to be more students from around Sacramento still in Afghanistan. The situation is ever-changing, but here's what I was able to find out about the remaining students. There are dozens of Sacramento area families still in the country, according to San Juan Unified School District. Recently, 3 families, including 7 students, made it back to the U.S., but about 38 students are still there. We continue to remain hopeful about their safe return soon, Raj Rai, Director of Communications for the school district, told me last week. There's another one with 3 students off of there. So, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of people still over there, but you know, everything was fine. Everybody who's still over there just wanted to be over there. Not everybody wanted to come home. That's what they tried to tell us on Twitter anyway. All right, let's talk about Hassan Piker from the Quartering. So Hassan earns a minimum of $3 million a year, plus donations, merch sales, and advertising deals. That puts him not just in the top 1%, but the top 0.01% of Americans. Capitalism is pretty damn awesome, eh? At Hassan the Hun. To go along with that, from HITC, Hassan Piker's salary shocks fans as Twitch stars' earnings are leaked. From Disha Kanpal. Hassan Piker, aka Hassan Abi, has become the hot topic on Twitter ever since a Twitch leak allegedly exposed the streamer's salary. The internet has been in a frenzy since Twitch's massive data leak. Not only did the leak expose top streamers' earnings, but other key information about the platform's new ventures prematurely got out too. Twitch took to Twitter to admit there's indeed been a breach. The leak alleges that the Twitch hunk rakes up $210,946 in a month. The leak also alleged that Hassan has been paid more than a total of $2,810,480 from Twitch between August 2019 and August 2021. These numbers make him a higher earner than Ninja and Pokimane, the platform's 2 biggest names. It has also been placed on Hassan at number 2 among top Twitch earners, second to the platform's beloved star XQC, who reportedly makes $752,467 every month. Not too shabby. Hassan's monthly earnings from Twitch left many of his fans and haters shocked. Many took to Twitter and pointed out his earnings don't coincide with his support for socialist political ideals. The 30-year-old New Brunswick, New Jersey streamer is a nephew of Young Turks founder Cenk Uygur, who identifies as a socialist. He was recently photographed at the Met Gala wearing a t-shirt that said "Make the Rich Pay," hence Twitter users were quick to point out the hypocrisy. Well, then Hassan, you should pay. That's just it. You should pay. Also, I see that there's a Know Nothing TV on here. Has Mr. Ignoramus been allowed back on the platform, or has he snuck himself back onto the platform? I mean, he got $0 in September, but hey, do we know what's going on here? Anyway, no, I mean, it is just some of the hypocrisy off of this, and these people who are out there, and they're getting rich, and they don't see any problem with it as long as they're the ones getting rich. And a lot of the people that they're preaching to, if they're preaching their socialist ideals to, they believe that they're going to do the same thing, that they can go up and play video games on stream, or do slam poetry, or do this or do that, and be able to afford a $2.5 million mansion, or have one given to them just because they were supporters of the cause. They're the Politburo. And these people are the Politburo, by the way, in the socialist system. They don't practice what they preach. They practice unfettered capitalism in and of themselves. But, there it goes. I'd love to see his tax statements, too. These socialists, man, they get pretty rich pretty quick, don't they? All right, another one from the LA Times. Hollywood crews give near unanimous support for strike authorization after contract talks stall. From Anusha Sakui. Hollywood crews have voted overwhelmingly in favor of waging a strike if their union cannot agree to a new contract, setting the stage for an extraordinary showdown with the major studios. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees said 52,706 members, or nearly 99% of those who cast ballots, voted in favor of strike authorization. The turnout was unusually high, with 90% of eligible union members participating in the vote, IATSE said. Union members, representing some 60,000 film and TV workers, have been casting their votes since Friday to authorize their leaders to call a strike if they can't reach an argument with producers on a new 3-year contract. The extraordinary vote comes months after talks with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents the major studios and streaming companies, reached an impasse. The members have spoken loud and clear. IATSE President Matthew Loeb said, "This vote is about the equality of life as well as the health and safety of those who work in the film and television industry." So you might see some pauses on some of your favorite movies coming out here. And, I mean, shut it all down. That's what I would say to this. Just shut it all the fuck down. Put the major movie studios out of business and let new people rise up in their wake. But of course, I mean, that's never going to happen. They'll find a way to continue going. They'll find a way to continue on through life, and they will find a way to continue to get you to pay $70 a ticket at the theater to go watch another 3-hour toy commercial for Marvel. All right, and the last one that we will do today before we do 2 things I like and a thing that I hate. The last thing that we'll do today comes from the Daily Wire. New poll offers surprising suggestion on direction Republicans want party to go for 2024 nomination. From Ryan Saavedra. New polling from Pew Research Center appears to show that a slight majority of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents do not want former President Trump to be the Republican Party's nominee in 2024. 2/3 of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents say they would like to see the former president continue to be a major political figure for many years to come, including 44% who say they would like him to run for president in 2024. The poll found about 1 in 5 say they would like Trump to continue to be a major political figure in the U.S. They would prefer he use his stature to support other presidential candidates who share his views in the 2024 election rather than run for office himself. About 1/3 of Republicans say they would not like Trump to remain a national political figure for many years to come. The results come from the poll appear to suggest that the majority of Republicans, about 54%, do not want to see Trump run again in 2024, since responding, Trump should not remain a major national political figure, would likely include being the party's nominee in 2024. But it's from Pew, so it's an oversampled poll. They went out and found the biggest neocon fucking base that they could and sampled them out. And they could still only get 54% of people that said they didn't want Trump to run for presidency. Now, I'm actually on that list. I don't want him to run for the president again. Now, don't get me wrong. As starting a media company, that would be great for my bottom line. That would be fantastic for my bottom line if he ran for president again. But realistically, for what it's going to do to the American people, for what it's going to do to the rest of the country, I don't really want to see it happen again. I do want to see him be a kingmaker, and I think that he's going to be a kingmaker, but I don't want to see him run for president again. Because there are too many people out there that will do absolutely everything to stop it, including possibly burning this fucking country down. And it's not that I don't think he would make a good president again. I think he would. I really think he would. But to what damage? But we'll see what happens there. Yeah, the song choice is perfect for this. It is a diamond conundrum at this point. All right, let's do a couple things I like and a thing that I hate. So, thing that I like number 1 today. So this comes to me from my friend Saint, who is going to be appearing on the show. I think it's going to be his first podcast appearance ever. I mean, he's been on other shows before as just kind of like a guest for a big live stream or something else like that. But I think this is going to be his first sit down and have a full discussion kind of podcast appearance ever. I think this is going to be the first time he's ever done this. So I know I wanted him to be on across the board before, but Sully wound up sitting in his place instead, both of them having been truckers. But I know we wanted to talk about the infrastructure deal with him, but that comes off of that. But I have been getting into canning and pickling lately like crazy. Now, I didn't like my first batch of pickles. I think they were too sweet. I gotta the next time I do it, use a different kind of vinegar and draw that sugar back, because it was too much. It was way too much. They're way too sweet. But I've been doing pickling. I did pickled red onions last week. And yes, we are getting, if the weather ever finally breaks, by the way, which would be fantastic, because it's supposed to be 80 degrees again over the weekend here in Wisconsin. But if the weather ever breaks, I'm going to be doing way more canning and pickling. Get some chicken broth up there, get some beef broth. If I can get a nice bone for some beef broth maybe. But just get ready for a long winter. Just start preparing for stuff, because you don't know what's going to happen here. You know, get some stuff into the cabinet ready to go, and some stuff that I don't have to depend on the store for either. Because, you know, they put so many preservatives and so much crap in it. But we were talking about that, and I mentioned the fact that I just made pickled red onions, which are going to be great on tacos in 2 months when they finally finish fermenting. And he mentioned the fact that he likes to have pickled carrots, which I probably can't eat because of my aversion to cooked orange vegetables, pickled jalapenos, which I would consider, and then pickled garlic. And my ears perked up when he said pickled garlic. And now I am absolutely amazed to go out and try this wonderful creation that he's talked about. So the recipe that I have comes from food.com. Looks like it will make 6 jars of pickled garlic. I have no idea what you even use pickled garlic for, but I'm fascinated. I am fascinated by this, so I guess we'll find out what happens with that and where that goes. But I'm excited. We'll see what happens. Other thing I like came out of the Discord. I missed it yesterday morning. I didn't see it until after the show, but this comes to us from Ron Helton over on the Discord, who gives us this article here from Bro Bible. Hundreds of alien-looking 3-eyed dinosaur shrimp surface after being reanimated in Arizona monsoon. From Douglas Charles. Something strange happened after a massive monsoon rainstorm hit Wupatki, I think is how you pronounce that, Arizona, about an hour north of Flagstaff. Hundreds of small alien-looking creatures surfaced in the standing water, seemingly out of nowhere. These creatures turned out to be something called triops, or dinosaur shrimp. Triops is Latin for 3 eyes, and these creatures' ancestors go back even further than the dinosaur. Fossil records indicate that these crustaceans evolved over 350 million years ago during the Devonian period and have remained relatively unchanged in external morphology, according to Central Michigan University. They appeared in the storm, after the storm, swimming around a temporary lake created in the ceremonial ball court at Wupatki National Monument. We knew that there was water in the ball court, but we weren't expecting anything living in it. Lauren Carter, lead interpretation ranger at Wupatki National Monument, told Live Science. Then a visitor came up and said, "Hey, you have tadpoles in your ball court." They weren't tadpoles. Carter said, after scooping one up with her hand, that the triops looked like little mini horseshoe crabs with 3 eyes. They actually turned out that they were triops whose eggs can lay dormant for decades in the desert until rehydrated. Let's just have a little closer look at these things, huh?
Underground creatures popping up all over the state. The massive monsoon rains we had over the summer have prehistoric creatures making a comeback after lying dormant for decades.
Team 12's William Pitts shows us hidden Arizona creatures lurking under the surface.
There are creatures underground in northern Arizona waiting for a chance to come back to life.
We had a couple of visitors that were like, "Hey, you guys have fish in the ball court," and we're like, "What?"
Park Ranger Kathy Cooksey says that's because this, an ancient Native American ball court at Wapatki National Monument north of Flagstaff, never has any water in it. There were no fish.
These guys are teeny tiny.
Instead, there were these things.
But there you can see some of its legs in there.
They're called triops, tiny crab-looking things.
If the pond lasts long enough, they can live up to 90 days.
The pond did not last that long. They died in a few days, but hopefully long enough to pass on a new generation of triops. And their eggs can stay underground for years, if not decades, just waiting for the next storm to hatch. Then they hatch, grow, hopefully lay more eggs, and die all over again.
It's just another example of long evolution.
And they've been doing it over and over for longer than humans have existed.
They are known as ancient fossils because they haven't changed at all.
These are tracks of what?
We don't know.
So, my first question is, why didn't you get some of these into captivity so that we can, preserve the species forever? Because I know that the environmentalists love to go out there and say, hey, let's make sure that some of these species don't go extinct. So, yeah, that's the first question. Did you get some of these into captivity? And the next question is, how do they taste on a po' boy? Because now I'm curious. All right, now let's do a thing that I hate. In the wake of hearing about the KKK member who is being arrested now because she's actually a black woman who is hoaxing as a KKK member, we see more stuff coming out of here and more people trying to jump onto this to try and push us back into the racial divide. You notice we're starting to see, because we're drawing to the close of 2021, and 2022 is upon us, which is an election year, which means that BLM and Antifa will be back out in force again. So we're starting to see some of the stories that are going to surface off of this here, including this one here from NBC News. Virginia woman says neighbors' racist taunts include speakers playing slurs and monkey noises. From Antonio Planas. A black woman in Virginia alleges that a neighbor plays monkey noises and racial slurs over speakers to taunt her family from inside his home, but authorities say there's little they can do about it. The woman, Janique Martinez, says the family and other neighbors have been harassed in her Virginia Beach neighborhood for more than a year, NBC affiliate WAVY of Norfolk reported. Whenever we would step out of our house, the monkey noises would start. It's so racist and it's disgusting, and I don't even know how else to explain it, Martinez said. NBC News could not immediately reach her for comment. Thursday, city officials have been describing the neighbor's alleged actions as offensive but not criminal. The neighbor, Martinez, says also monitors her family's movements with multiple home cameras and blinking lights that appear to be hooked up to sensors. Martinez told WAVY that the neighbor's alleged harassment escalated to monkey noises and audio of racial epithets after she reported him for loud music. He found out that we called the police on him to turn down the music one morning, and then it's just been nonstop with the N-word, Martinez said. My son is terrified of him. The Virginia Beach Police Department did not immediately respond to an NBC request for comment on Thursday. The police department released a statement on Wednesday describing the neighbor's behavior as appalling, offensive, and unpleasant. The statement, however, said there was little police could do. The city attorney and Virginia magistrates have separately determined that actions reported thus far did not rise to a level that Virginia law defines as criminal behavior. It said that means that BBPD has no authority to intervene and warrants are not supported. Yeah, no, there's no crime against being a racist. They try to make it seem like there's a crime into it every once in a while, but there's no crime against being a racist. I mean, if you're going to be a racist, you're a jackass, you're an asshole. And if somebody goes and beats the crap out of you, you probably deserve it, but, you know, there's no crime against being a racist. As far as there's nothing we can do about the noise that's coming over, I call bullshit on that. As a person who used to throw parties when I was in my younger days, including parties where I didn't know some of the people that were there, yes, it happened. As a person who has done that before in my life, I look at this and I say, bullshit. The police don't want to do something like this because they don't want to inflame tensions. And I don't know anything about this neighborhood either. You know, I'm sure that there's a proponent of elitism that goes along with this. This looks like a very nice neighborhood. So you get that one rich asshole that's in there that pays a bunch of taxes onto things and gives payoffs to the government. I'm sure they don't want to go up and do something about that to him. But if they want to go shut something down for disturbing the peace or anything, they'll do it. They'll do it. So there's just a lot of stupid shit going off in here. I guarantee you this is one of the things that we hear about next year as we go into an election year and try to say that, oh, Republicans are just the most racist people in the world again. You know, and then it'll come to somebody who is going and checking out a construction site, and that's going to make national news. And then we'll get to a bird watcher, and that makes national news. And the next thing you know, I can't breathe! I can't breathe! Over and over in the streets again. So here's where it starts, and we're going to go through another probably full year of this shit again. At least until the midterms come out and do whatever it is that the mainstream media wants them to do. And that's it for the day. We're done. Done a little earlier than usual. And we got through all the articles too. We got through everything. So let's change up the track and let's get out of here. All right, thank you guys so much. Let's get rid of this track over here. Thank you so much for coming in, hanging out with me today, coming in and talking about the news with me, listening to me rant about the debt ceiling and everything else that went along with this. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Twitch, become a subscriber. Even with your Amazon Prime, that always helps out. Go back and do that. Otherwise, come back and check me out and share with a friend, because that's usually the easiest and best way to come out and make sure that everything gets shared here. We'll be back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, with more news, more commentary, more everything else that goes along with that. So hope to see you guys then. And, well, hope to see you guys on Turns of Pages Productions as well. Remember, if you are just lurking, get a last-minute message in so I can get your name written down in the notebook and say thank you for chatting, too, by the way, because that's the most important part. We like you guys over here, and I want to give you a special thank you for coming in and supporting the show. In spite of the fact that I don't do a lot of live chat during the show as well. Maybe 1 or 2 messages per show. So with that, thank you guys so much. We will see you here tomorrow, and we'll see some of your live chat again tomorrow too. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.